Hi everyone, in these slides we're going to be learning how to write a persuasive essay. So this is going to cover the basic parts of the persuasive essay. So the first part of your, in this case, letter, or any persuasive piece, is going to be a hook. The hook is where you grab your reader and you get them interested in what you have to say. Pretty much every type of paper has one of these. But in a persuasive paper, it's especially important because you're trying to make an argument. You want to convince your reader, so you really need to pull them in and have them hear what you have to say. So there are several ways to do this in a persuasive letter or piece. The first one is shock. You can shock your reader using an alarming statistic or fact. So for example, if you're writing about smoking and why there should be a smoking ban on campus or whatever it is, you might use the number of people who die from lung cancer every year, which is really large and alarming to most people. Another way to go about writing your hook for a persuasive piece is to get your audience emotional. People respond to things that they have an emotional response to. So if you can invoke a strong emotion in your reader, you're going to make them want to read the rest of your piece. So you can do this by maybe using a strong hypothetical or scare tactic, both of which are found in the module on persuasive appeals. You also can convey and should convey a sense of immediacy. So your topic is important. The controversy you're speaking about is important. So you want your reader to know from the beginning that they need to do something about it immediately. You can convey this sense of urgency by, for example, using a worst case scenario to help your reader see what's going to happen if they don't take action right now. So again, those worst case scenarios are talked about in the module on persuasive support, so you might want to go back and look at that. Also, your hook should establish authority, or can establish authority. You're going to establish authority somewhere in your letter either way, but you can get this done in the hook if you use a personal example, and again found in the appeals module. So you can use a personal story or talk about something that happened to you that relates to your topic to both engage the reader and also to establish authority. Another really important thing about the hook is that it should be very descriptive. It should use descriptive, colorful, and interesting language. So, for example, if you're using the personal example or a hypothetical or a worst case scenario, you want to really set your scene by really describing. So that's the hook of your persuasive piece. Here are some examples of hooks. Joe's writing on texting while driving. He opens by stating that in 2016, 13,000 teens were needlessly killed because they were texting while driving. That's a really big number. So that's going to grab the audience's attention. Another, on the same topic, Precious is writing a similar paper but opens with an emotional appeal instead of a statistic. Imagine it's the day before your child's high school graduation. You're so looking forward to watching your daughter blossom at college. You can't wait to snap endless photos of her in her cap and gown, smiling with her diploma. Suddenly, the phone rings. Your daughter's just been killed in an accident, and it's all because another driver was texting. It's a very different kind of hook than Joe's, but it's also really engaging. Joe's using a logical appeal, he's using a statistic, and Precious has chosen to use an emotional appeal as her hook. Now you can argue which one is more effective. They're both pretty effective. I'd say Precious's is probably a little bit more so because it pulls the reader in by setting a scene and making them feel the strong emotion. She could maybe then use Joe's appeal, the statistic, as her second support. So the thesis, also right towards the beginning of the paper, it should come directly after your hook. Like all papers, a persuasive piece has a pretty predictable and formulaic thesis. So the persuasive thesis must include the following, and I will absolutely be looking for this type of thesis in your letter. It should include the controversial topic you will cover, so your thesis should state your topic. It should include a clear identification of which side you're on. Are you for, against, are you somewhere in the middle? What's your stance? Your thesis should also hint at what your solution will be. Remember, a persuasive piece has to call for action. So your thesis wants to give your reader a clue about what you're going to ask them to do. So here's an example. Euthanasia should be legalized in all states because as human beings, we should all have a right to live and die with dignity. The topic is clear. We know that it's going to be about euthanasia. The stance is clear, that the author is for the option of euthanasia. And there's also a hint at the solution, that it should be legalized in all states. Now, obviously, the solution section will get into more detail there, but we know vaguely what the solution will be. So that has all the components of a persuasive thesis, and it's only still a sentence long. So that is a very well-written persuasive thesis.